I'm working on a painting while we're doing this, but it's not like it helps me to listen better. So I'm not ignoring you all.
You did. All right, so we're live on Facebook now. There are a few participants that are not here yet, but they can join us as they will. And as I said, this will be available on our Facebook page as well as our YouTube channel. So let's start by introducing our panelists for today. First, we have Ruby Sprouse. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Ruby, and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Hello, everybody. For those that don't know me, I've spent the last 20 years working with artists, artisans, producers, farmers, all kinds of small businesses, helping them transition their business to offer online products. Currently, I am retired, but still do a lot of local work with artisans, whether that's to get their business online, how to be more effective on social media, how to use email marketing, or just how to ramp up their SEO so that their websites are more visible. And so I'm here to answer questions and give my feedback on pricing your product.
Thank you. Jennifer, could you please just say a few words about yourself?
Sure. My name is Jennifer McCluskey. I'm a business advisor over at the Small Business Development Center at SUNY Canton. So we work for free and one-on-one with clients who are looking to just have any questions answered about their business. So as we talk about pricing today, if people have questions setting up their pricing guide and want to get more into it, you're welcome to set up a meeting with me. We can Zoom, call. We do have some limited in-office time. So we can do that. We also help businesses with like startup and growing your business plans, really anything you guys have questions about. And I also own my own photography business, so I might be pulling from that a little bit in our discussion today. So that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. Sarah, you are our other panelist today.
Hi, yeah, I'm Sarah, and I've been a full-time artist since 2013 and making and selling art for years before that. I mostly do paintings, ceramics, a lot of custom work, and I'm also part-time in school for electrical engineering technician, so that's a whole, and I do permaculture design, so if you have property you want looked at, I can help you with that.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you to our three panelists today. Just a quick sort of outline of what we'll be discussing. We'll talk about initial considerations. And then we'll talk a little bit more detail about your target market and your target audience, and actually which expenses you use, calculating costs, coming up with that price point, having sales, managing follow-up, all of that we're going to try to touch on today. So let me just pose the first question out to the panel. What factors do you consider when you're pricing your product, if you have a new product? And go ahead.
I think that what you said first, the first one is just making sure you know really well what your costs are, both the costs that go into each product and your overhead costs. I work with a lot of startups and artists who tend to kind of underprice themselves and they don't necessarily know their costs. So that I feel like is really the first step to figuring out the pricing, is to figure out what your costs are or are going to be at least.
Okay.
Jennifer is right. First, pay yourself. Understand your value and don't devalue yourself. The other challenge for artisans and producers, craftspeople, taking into consideration all of your costs. For instance, if you make pottery and you have to account for your materials, you have to account for the paint, you have to account for your time, you have to account for your equipment. All of those kinds of things go into your pricing on, and let me not forget your marketing.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree that a lot of artists underprice. I think there's also things with art that you have to know what the market will bear. I do, mugs that really like time-wise, I should be charging $500 for, but like not that many people are going to buy a $500 mug. So I need to be aware of that. And like, how am I going to make that up? Do I only make one of those a year? And I just know I'm going to lose a certain amount of money on it, that kind of thing. There's also something that I don't think gets touched on a lot. If artists are very insecure about their price and they want to sell something for $7, but really it should be selling for 100, and they price it at 100 and sell it at that, they're going to get all bent up inside and messed up. Like they're going to have a hard time with that. So if you really need to raise your prices, it's good to do it gradually. So it's like, okay, the goal is 100, but I'll sell them, slowly to get up there and see how that works and how that impacts how you do it.
Well, and touching on that too, like you want to price something at a price point you feel happy. Like after you make that sale, do you feel kind of like, oh, I didn't make enough money off of that. That didn't work out for me. Or after you make that sale, are you like, yes, that worked out really well. Like you can kind of assess your feelings after the sale to see if you think emotionally your pricing is where you want it to be. So yeah, feelings do come into pricing a lot. And another thing you can think about with pricing, I have a lot of people who feel like they have to set their pricing and then they just need to leave it. It needs to be set. Not really. Like it can be totally flexible. I mean, you might do a show in Canton and then you might do a show in Lake Placid. You might do a show in New York City. Like you're going to be pricing totally differently depending on where you are. And like you mentioned, who you're selling to, who your market is. So it's okay to be creative.
Yes, it's okay to be creative. But if you're trying to establish your brand and your reputation as an entrepreneur, as a single business owner is your brand, be very careful about changing your prices based on market. That can backfire because people travel, and you want to be consistent with your pricing. And I've been asked this for over 20 years. No, that it's just not a very good idea because your prices are made on your fixed and variable costs and what you want to pay yourself. And you also have to think about the kind of what word am I looking for? The persona that you want to establish yourself in. So if you want to be considered a craftsperson and you go to, you're at farmers markets and flea markets, or do you want to consider yourself to be an artist? And so just by that transition may affect your cost. But the most important thing to consider when it comes to your pricing is what goes into it, your fixed and variable cost, and taking the time to do that down to how much fabric you use, how much paint you use, your electricity, whatever goes into making that product should be considered in your pricing, as well as valuing yourself. But the idea of what the market will bear, the market can bear a lot of things, and that segues into understanding who you're selling to.
Which is our next section.
Because,
so, yeah.
They go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Yes, are there questions?
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions so far? I think for this particular discussion today, if you have questions, just raise your hand or wait for a break and go ahead and ask, because we're covering a lot of ground today, and or jot it down and ask at the end. It's up to you. But it's a small group today, so an open dialogue I think is fine if there are questions. So I kind of want to go back to the knowing your market. I mean, knowing your market, the changing your price based on your market. I would love to hear some more input on that from people who have done it or not done it. And why, Ruby, that, you said that not to do that. So who is your market? We have artists that sell, like Sarah. Sarah sells locally, but she also does a lot of custom work and sells online. So do you, in determining your price, how do you balance those things?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say, so if I have a sale locally, prices are lower because, well, the market, but it's also, it's so much easier for me to give something to a person and they leave with it than it is for me to market it online, photograph it, package it, get it out to the post office. So there's things like that that take into make it like reasonable to change the price. And I say that, you know, if you buy this from me, it will be cheaper in person. Then once I put it online, it's going to cost more. And that's just the way it is. So like if there is a variation in price, then you are upfront and like transparent about that kind of thing.
Because your costs can change too if you're traveling to a show that's not local. I mean, that brings up your mileage and hotels maybe.
Yeah, food, that kind of stuff. And that's like custom projects, those are very involved. Like I'll take months of interaction working back and forth. And I found at this point, because I've been doing it for so long, I can tell when someone's going to be high maintenance. So I'll give them a higher, you know, price quote, and it works fine for me. And if, you know, they don't want it, then they don't get that specific thing. So that's all right too. So if you're going to raise your prices, you have to know, like, you're going to maybe lose a sale. Like, is it worth that or is it not?
And I would say, even if you change prices, definitely keep in thought your cost. Like, you don't want to go so low that you're under your cost or you're not making enough for what you're doing. And I think it's okay. I was not saying that you can change like all the time, but it's okay to grow your business over time. Because like I found when I first started, I was charging one thing and then it just changed and it worked out for me to be charging something different. And then just making sure you're covering your costs. I think it really comes back to that. And I mean, knowing who you're selling to, I work with some businesses, some artists who kind of are like, well, I don't think I could afford this, so I don't feel comfortable charging to someone else. You maybe are not your client. You're maybe charging to people who make a lot more money than you do, who are doctors or lawyers or out there in the community. So knowing who is the most likely to buy your stuff may help you figure out how high or how low you can set your price for them to be able to afford it.
And
you're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. So we understand, for instance, those for those, for instance, that know, I decided a few years ago, I was diagnosed with lupus, and I have one of those rare things where I am allergic to the sun. Seriously, never thought that would happen to me. So I wanted to make a hat that that was as flamboyant as I am. Yes, you want it for utility, but it's more for fashion. Now, I made a conscious decision that my hats would not sell here in the North Country where I live, because of my price point. And that price point was more amenable to larger cities and those that were fashion conscious. And so with the price point of $125 on the lowest hat, the average person here in the North Country is not going to buy that hat. So I had to make that decision. So the other business, which I sell completely online, I made the decision probably right about the time that lupus decided to take over my life, that I was no longer going to sell physical books, because I sell vintage craft books, whether it's sewing patterns, knitting patterns, crochet patterns, and I sell completely online. And again, I made a conscious decision that yes, I do have several customers here in the North Country for that business, but my customers are from all over the world. I know my customer is the person that wants to redesign from a vintage pattern. They have a clientele that they're making one-of-a-kind pieces from, so they will buy my patterns because it makes their life easy. So again, when you're thinking about pricing, it is very important to understand your clientele, because if you start trying to, and again, what you're doing when you lower your prices to meet the market right here and now, you're devaluing yourself, you're devaluing your product. And so it may be a better idea to take the time to understand who's buying this all over the place. And that's where keywords, that's where SEO comes into place. That's where understanding even craft shows, understanding who those people are that come through that craft show and which ones will pay $300-400. And I have a very good example of a client that I worked with for years, Gary Pierce. He makes beautiful woodwork, beautiful wood bowls. You will not find Gary taking his $500 bowls and changing it to $300 because he wants to sell at a particular, he's decided that he's going to sell at a farmer's market. That again will come back at you. And I will tell the story of my husband from years ago, who was an incredible woodworker, Claude Sprouse. He changed the price of a box. I didn't know he did, but he did. He sold it about $100 less at a local show than he did at a more high-end show. And just so happened someone came through that was familiar with his work and said, why did you have this price over here and now you have this price here? So it's better to start your pricing from your fixed and variable cost, your profit margin that you want to build into it, and what you want to pay yourself, how you value yourself. And in most cases, an artist should not value themselves less than $25 an hour. And that's just my personal opinion there.
Ruby touched on something I kind of want to highlight, is really having a detailed view of who your ideal customer is. Like for my wedding photography, it's not just people who are getting married. My ideal bride is usually a little bit older. They're the ones who are more likely to afford my work and appreciate it more. They're the kind of people that like to go hiking during the afternoon and then sit down in the evening with a glass of wine, like outdoorsy, like to be outside. The wedding's a lot of times outside, but have that kind of touch of class to it. So if you can really dig in detailed on who your ideal customer is, that will help you learn to both market your product and kind of figure out how you want to sell it too. Or like my senior photography, my clients usually not the seniors themselves, it's usually their parents. So selling my work so that the parents are comfortable with it and they're usually the ones paying for the session. So knowing who your client is very detailed is important. A lot of my startups come in and say, well, I can sell my work to everyone, anyone will buy it. Who's really going to be that person that's really going to buy it, and how do you use the words in your website, the words in social media, all of that to come together to sell that product?
No, and that's super important about the senior pictures with it's the parents that are, because I do kids classes and kids often like my art, but like the kids usually aren't paying for it. So it's for kids, but you're marketing to the parents, and you have to keep that in mind. When I had business classes previously that were really interesting, where if you had customers and I had, a couple years of sales, you can contact them. So always get their email and then interview them. Like, what's your background? Where did you go to school? What are you working in? Like, what types of websites do you like to spend time on? Do you pay for magazine subscriptions? Like, where do you see media? And like really get, so you can, if you do that with like even just like a sample of like 20 people that have purchased from you, it can give you a really interesting like view onto who's buying from you. And like are those the people you want to sell to? Like, you know, why are they buying from you? That kind of stuff. So.
Absolutely.
Good insight, ladies. Thank you. Let's talk a little bit about the specific costs. We talked about fixed and variable, but talk to us like we don't know what those words mean. What are some of the things that people need to consider when pricing? We're talking about artwork, but you know, arts programming as well. I don't think we have any other arts administrators on the call today with us, but you know, how do you you want to have a class? How do you afford that? Who do you market that to? What are your costs for that class?
May I ask some of our attendees a couple of questions about what they sell?
Sure.
I see Julian.
You're muted.
You're muted, Julie.
Julian.
Yeah, Julie's fine. Actually, I'm a former owner of Hackett's. That was a store our home base was in Ogdensburg, but since that went away, I started a jam business just for something to do. I took a home processing class at Cornell Cooperative Extension, and I started making jam, but it became like an obsessive behavior. I started making so much jam and jelly. So anyways, to answer your question, I do this fourth quarter business, jam and jelly, and it's just something I've been doing, but I have some other things in my mind. And I was just interested because obviously at Hackett's, we priced a lot of things. Some prices, some manufacturers set prices, but then it's up to yourself. But you're absolutely right about getting all of your costs in, and that's everything. And a lot of people don't do that. And just a little comment about consistent pricing. You know, we had stores in Ogdensburg, in Canton, in Potsdam, and Messina, and all of our pricing was the same, and which Walmart does not do. And I'll tell people, we were accused of having different prices in different towns, and we never did that, never. And but people do know, so it's something to be very cautious of.
I'm going to give you an example of a big box store that changes their prices, and they'll take the heat for it. Walmart intentionally put a store across the street from the base down in the Watertown area. The pricing, but they have to compete with, and I know this because military family, that the commissary prices are much cheaper than local food prices. So that particular Walmart reduced its prices versus the Walmart that is over on Arsenal Street, and definitely less than the one that's in Potsdam. Now, that's a big box store. They can take the heat for that. But for me to realize that I can get Smucker's jam for $2.99 there in Evans Mills versus Canton at $3.99, and that's just one example. I'm going to go to the Evans Mills store. So it's people do look, and you can't assume that they won't look. And I want to go to someone else. That's Christine. Are you selling pieces?
You have to unmute yourself.
No, we still can't hear you, Christine.
Would someone like Lydia or Amanda? I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. And Jella?
Anjali.
Anjali. Good to meet you. Sorry I scrambled your name.
No, that's okay.
Okay, do you sell anything now?
No, not now. I'm totally new to this. I've been doing painting for a while. And so I thought, okay, let me try looking into selling, but I don't know where to start at all. And your suggestion, I think, which kind of helped me just now was, you know, in terms of time, like $25 an hour. So that gives a rough idea of how to do pricing. Because the other variables I think depend on experience and down the road. But to start with, there's very difficult to make that decision. The only thing I can do is compare with other paintings that by other artists. But that's the way I've been thinking of doing it. Go look at other artwork and see how much they're charging, and then base mine on that given the size of the painting. But that's all I know right now.
Yeah, you can kind of get stuck when you do that though, because you don't know if that person's making enough money to survive and eat off of that too. So it's a place a lot of people start, and it's okay to start there, but just make sure that you know kind of what you're putting into it too.
Shall
I've
I answer
worked
now? Can
with-
you hear me now?
Yes, Christine.
Okay, sorry about that. No, I don't sell individual pieces, but I do organize art events, a major quilt show. And sometimes people want to sell at those quilt shows, textile art, or they have, relevant book sales, things like that. So thinking about the fixed costs of putting on the event, helping people to understand how to price their own goods, that's why this is valuable to me.
Just a side note, I've found fiber arts are some of the most underpriced crafts that I have seen, or even, like maybe it's a craft, but really it's a piece of art. And it's like
art.
the amount of time and supplies that go into it, it's like, this should be like 5 times as much as it is.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And one of the things that has been talked about at the textile show this fall, and this is in Sackets, some of the local quilters would like to have a pop-up vending opportunity and helping them think about their work, because they're artists. I mean, they really are. You're not going to find what they do at in the sheet section at Walmart, for example. So yeah, it's pretty interesting.
I have a question for the panelists. What about an artist who is starting out versus, and maybe we touched on this a little bit, but do you charge less when you start out, or do you come right out of the gate with your pricing where you want it? What happens when you're just starting out?
Experience tells me that you come out of the gate setting the persona that you want to present to the world. So if you come out of the gate discounting your time, your expertise, your intellectual property, then you sometimes get stuck there. It's very hard to adjust upwards. But if you come out of the gate with your persona in place, you know that your background and experience, based on your love of art, based on your education, based on your level of expertise, and you're thinking to yourself, I want to make $10,000 this year. And to make that $10,000, I want to create 10 pieces. And I want to sell those 10 pieces for $1,000 each. Now, you could set that price arbitrarily, or you can think about, okay, let's say that I want to sell this painting. Say it's the size of my computer screen, 27 by 27. All right, and so you want to sell it for $1,000. Now, the first thing before you go out to the public is, okay, so I've set an arbitrary price, but let's say, how much was the paint? How much was the canvas, the brushes, your time, the man hours that you put into it, and what's your profit point? Where do you break even and above? So you backtrack backtrack with that $1,000 and say, okay, these are all the things that goes into making that painting. Now, people might say, well, I don't have the time to do that. I don't want to do that. But if a tube of acrylic paint or watercolors or whatever it is that you're using, if that tube is $25, maybe you'll use that entire tube on that one painting, but most likely that tube is going to be used over several different paintings. And Sarah, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's going to be used more than once. So you decide, okay, so this tube of paint cost me $20. So how many ounces do you estimate that you use? And when you're running your cost, you take a fraction of that and put it into your variable cost, because it will change for each painting that you make. So starting from the beginning, again, start with what you want and then figure out if it's realistic to ask that amount. But again, it comes down to when you're thinking about, and fiber artists are bad for this. I'm a fiber artist. But sitting down with someone and saying, okay, you want this crocheted suit, you want it made out of silk thread. This is how much the thread is going to cost. So first thing is the materials. What is that going to cost? Then you estimate, well, how many man hours is it going to take me to put this piece together? So I have to consider buttons and lining and all of those kinds of things. And then I'm paying myself $25 an hour. And then the person says, nope, that's too expensive, because just the materials alone, since they want a silk suit, is going to run over $1,000. So you sit back and think about it and say, then they come back to you and say, well, can you just make me the jacket? What is the jacket going to be? The jacket is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $400 to $500. And most of that cost is in the cost of materials, not necessarily the man hours. Making a jacket takes less man hours than making an entire suit and lining and all of that. So, because there's two types of skills that go into that. You have the skill of sewing as well as the skill of crocheting. So remember that your skill is valuable and there is a cost associated with it.
I kind of did something similar when I started. I really like spreadsheets. So I pulled together a spreadsheet. I actually figured out per like square inch of, I was printing photographs to sell at craft fairs, like how much that ink costs per square inch, how much the paper costs per square inch. And then you can kind of just use your spreadsheet to multiply it all out. That gets you started. And then you have to make sure you add in your mileage and all the other overhead costs. But if anyone needs help with a spreadsheet, like I said, I like them and can help. So anytime.
And I don't like them, but I will use a piece of paper to put it all down. And I keep extensive notes. One of the reasons why I don't sell the physical patterns anymore or copies of those vintage patterns is because, you know, when I run the cost of printing, not having a large printing company local to me, because it would still cost me an hour to get to Potsdam or an hour to get to Watertown to do some high-speed printing. Digital patterns were a better way to put my product out there.
I actually don't print my own stuff anymore either. It's a second that, but yeah, when I started.
Yes. Yes, it can be very expensive. It can be very expensive. And the quality of the print is also very important. So you consider the nuances. One of the things when you're starting out, we fail to look at what other people are doing, people that are doing similar to what you're doing. or you've made the decision that, oh, nobody's doing what I'm doing. And typically when you take that view, you'll miss out on a lot of critical information that can make or break your product, because and this is actually something that I said to someone in class. It was a whole class full of people. I was teaching at the school on Akwesasne territory. And someone said to me, I don't want to tell you what my product is because I'm afraid of someone stealing it. Mm. And I said, I said, the first thing is, if it is that unusual, if it solves a problem that has not been solved, there's a possibility of that. But in most cases, there is somebody out there that is already doing it. And so it's your job to find out who they are. So don't assume that nobody's doing what you're doing. Art, to a certain degree, is very personal. Paintings and sculpture, those things are very personal and very nuanced. But if you get out there with your artwork and you're finding that people are not gravitating to it, one, you got to find out why. And two, you got to find out, are you really selling your artwork in the right place? And one of the best places today to determine that, for probably right around $300 a year, is your own website. Because that gives you the flexibility to look at, put your artwork out there, get feedback from customers, see what other art is selling. Would your art be better sold as a download for someone to buy and print themselves to put up on the wall? So there's lots of ways where you can determine if it's a viable product. And with that, I will turn it over. I'm long-winded, so forgive me. I hope I'm providing information that you guys can use.
I am looking at my notes here and I have a question, and again, goes to that price point and what do you do? Is it all the same? Do you do it differently? What about consignment sales? That's one thing we haven't talked about yet. I used to make jewelry. I could make a pair of earrings and sell them for $15. But then when I go down to the gallery down the road, they want to take 40% of that. So where does that leave, especially a new artist, when they're trying to?
Technically, your price that you sell, if I'm gonna sell a mug for $50, it should sell in the store down the road for $50, and that $50 should cover, the cost of them taking their percentage out. I found that not to be a great strategy up here, so I just make an entirely different line of work that I sell in consignment stores. I know that not everybody has that option, but it's like so I have stuff that I sell at Tawny and it only sells at Tawny, and that's just the way it is. So, but yeah, if you can't afford to give a percentage to a gallery, then your prices are probably too low, or you're selling to the wrong market or something like that, so.
You're absolutely right. Go on, I'm sorry.
Lydia?
Piggyback on that a little bit from a retailer's point of view. I really think that for artists, like if I was to put something in a store, I would want exclusivity on that item, because I think because what happens is, and I think Sarah mentioned this, if you can go to see Sarah and buy something, and sometimes you can buy it for less, but you want something, I guess from a retailer's point of view, I would want something unique from an artist that would only be something that I would be selling, so people would come to me for that item. And I think that also can expose an artist to a lot more people also.
Well, in that kind of situation, that's more like wholesale. Like if you want to design some, like if a store was like, hey, I want you to make this product, I would charge them a design fee and they would buy wholesale. Like
Yeah.
I have a good relationship with Tawny where like when they do grant funded programs, they ask me. So I'm like, I just voluntarily make different work for them. But if a straight up retail store asked me to design a product, it would be a whole other process. So it really, it depends who you're working with. Like the Arts Council will have a store eventually, like, you know, I'll probably have something for that store, but you know, that's, they're a nonprofit that I have a long-standing relationship with. So
Well, you know, it's interesting because there's a business, and I because we're on Facebook, I'm not going to mention any names, but you know, there's a local business in a local town that features a lot of Amish material, and I think a lot of people go see it, and then they go find where it's being made because they can buy it at such a lesser price. So you know, that's the, from a retailer's point of view, you know.
I mean, for me, that's
That's a very good
like
point.
a whole other experience though. Like there's convenience of going to the store. I'll pay more for convenience. Most people will. Like hunting down a specific Amish crafts person who doesn't have a phone, like I'm not doing that. And
Yeah.
but you know, maybe somebody wants to do that and that's like part of their experience. Like they
Yeah.
found something in a store they like and then so they want to go drive all over back roads. Like I don't know. I think there's room for everybody to do their thing.
Now let's look at that tactic from a marketing standpoint. All right. In terms of sales. So for instance, you were talking, you want exclusivity. That allows the artist or artisan or craftsperson to, on their Facebook page and whatever social media platform they use and their website, to say you can find my products exclusively here. Find this product exclusively here. That gives the artist some reason to update their website. It brings them a link, a credible link to their site, because their traffic will feed off your traffic and vice versa. Tawny, while it's a wonderful, wonderful expression of the Adirondack experience, it's a destination place. You sell one group of things there, and Tawny has a lot of artisans where they've, what do you call it? I can't think of it now. What do you call it when the artist makes it, but it has Tawny's name on it? Jennifer, I forgot what that's called.
Consignment, or there might be a specific type of consignment. But.
Yes. So say for instance, you make a particular candle and it's a generic, it's your candle, but it has Tawny's name on it. It's sold exclusively at their store. So the person that's buying it doesn't know that it's made by you. That's one wholesale track. You could do various things to put your product out there in the marketplace. But the most important thing is to be consistent, to make sure that you are using all of your online properties, all of your physical properties to market what it is that you sell. If you don't do that, you're kind of, you're hiding behind the 8 ball. And consignment, one of the things that you have to remember with that 40%, the company that offers you a consignment, that company is responsible for marketing also. They make or develop your own consignment contract, because it's very important to understand the division of labor. How is this store going to market my product? Is that 40% valuable to me? What am I getting for that 40% except for them selling my product? Are they marketing? Am I selling one piece a year? Am I selling something every week? So what's the value that 40% brings to you? What does that store offer you in respect to selling your products within their store? So if the store doesn't advertise, if the store doesn't have good foot traffic, they're not open. There's a lot of things. Just because you want to sell your stuff doesn't mean that every store that offers consignment is a good opportunity for an artist. So you have to be very particular about consignment.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I also agree with what Sarah said. If your pricing does not have enough leeway in it for you to do that 30-40%, maybe you should be raising your price that you're selling. If you can't, I think having separate lines is great if you can, but if you can't, maybe you need to increase your price that you're selling the thing to match what it is in consignment. So then it's pretty even. And if they can sell it for 40% more, you could probably sell it for 40% more too and make a little more money.
Excellent point.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead.
So the consignment conversation is helpful for me. I have a children's book that I've written and illustrated, and I sell that personally and on Amazon, but there's a handful of local shops that are carrying that. So like the idea of a consignment contract, even like I have like a handwritten receipt. This is the number of books you have right now and what you've paid me or what I'm going to get at the end of the month or whatever. But one of the things that it's much harder for me to price is I do mural painting. And so like I painted murals through one of the SLC grants down in a local village. But I also, just over this summer, for example, I painted a mural in a little girl's bedroom. And I am very slow. Meticulous is a great positive way of describing that. But it's not possible for me to charge people for the number of hours that I put into something. And I don't know how to, like this one that I did over the summer was for a friend. And so honestly, like the arrangement that we have for that is that I painted her bedroom and her husband has tree working skills and he's going to come and do a bunch of tree work in our woods. And they're going to pay me the materials, that I purchased to do the work. But I also invested like 2.5 weeks of time painting at their house.
Tree
So
work
I
is
don't know.
expensive though, so like that sounds like a good deal. Like,
Yeah, like I don't know. I am not the person that is out there overpricing myself
murals,
at all.
I mean, just for murals, like minimum $30 an hour for a specialized thing. So if you have someone where you're getting like a good exchange with a friend, like time it, write down every hour, and then when somebody else that you aren't going to trade like a valuable skill with a friend, then you can be like, this will cost X amount. And if that's like unreasonable, then you alter your design or something of that nature,
Yeah.
Like if you're doing small detailed illustrations, the work you do as a mural is going to be different because getting that level of detail you can do at this size,
Yes.
that big is like, it's a whole other thing. Like I can't even.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lydia, have you am I pronouncing that right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Lydia, have you gone out and looked at other murals online, what people are charging for commissions? Have you did any study or work on that at all?
No, I don't even know how to do that. I know that I've been told about another woman that is a local artist that like did I don't know, it was probably a 3 by 4 foot mural on their kid's bedroom wall. And she was, the friend was marveling at how inexpensive it was and like how wonderful it was that like they could afford to have her do that. And, but I don't even know how to look up local muralists and what they charge.
Okay, so am I understanding that computers are not something that you use on a regular basis for searching, looking at things?
I have not used them in that. I have not researched that category of thing, I guess. What I've seen is, websites with gallery pieces that are like, here's the artist and here are the products, or on an Etsy shop or things like that, where it's a tangible thing that you take home, and how those are priced. But I haven't researched.
Are you on
that.
Facebook yourself?
Yes.
Okay, would you send me a note just reminding me, because I can send you a couple of, and just so happened just recently, I came across, it's a woman that does murals in one of the cities in some of the areas. Anyway, it's about $30 to $45 an hour. And you really should not undervalue yourself, but I can send you a couple of links that you might want to take a look at.
Okay.
That I think might be helpful. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Usually when I work with clients, like a contractor or somebody that's got a project like that, like a house painter also will need to put more time into it than maybe the client wants them to. I don't encourage people to price by the hour, because that gets you in conflict with the client, because the client wants you to hurry up so that they pay less, and you want to slow down so that you do a good job. But I think sometimes it's better knowing in your head kind of what your hourly rate is that you feel is worthwhile and that you want to get out of it. And then, like Sarah said, figure out how many hours this job is taking you to figure, your next job, what you want your hourly rate to be, about how many hours you think that job might take you. And then you can quote them a per job price. And if you end up spending a lot longer time, then you might have to eat that the first time, but it'll give you more experience for how much you need to price the next time. And then also one thing we've talked about, pricing based on time, as you get more experience and you get more skills, you're going to be able to go faster because you're better at it. Like my work has changed significantly in the last 10, 15 years since I've been doing it. So it's okay for your cost might go down, your pricing might go up as you get more experience. So that can change through your career as a business owner too. But yeah, definitely kind of as you're starting, keep a log, know how much time you're putting into that. So at least, even if you are underpricing your time, how much you're making per hour. And then you can kind of keep working on that as you grow as a business.
Yeah.
I want to just get
time studies.
Whoops, go ahead, Ruby.
Excuse me. I just wanted to add one thing to that. Time studies are not very difficult things to do. They don't have to be scientific. At the beginning of a project, you write your time down. If you take a break, remember to do that. But just
you get sucked into Facebook, remember to note that.
Yes. So, yes. So be mindful those first few times of how long it takes you to complete something. Because again, Jennifer is absolutely right. There's some people do not like the idea of paying by the hour, but you give them a flat rate. They're okay. And it may be the same thing, but it's not by the hour. So it's just perception. But if you know what goes into it and you're comfortable with your price, then that works for you and the customer. Everybody comes out with the win-win. And Alicia, back over to you.
No problem. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the final bullet point I have here is managing and following up. And a couple of those questions are running specials and sales, do you do it? If you do, how do you do it? And the other question is, how often do you revisit your price structure? How often should you be reevaluating your costs and your materials and your expenses to go into that all important price?
I'd say be careful about sales, because you probably do the same thing I do. I have a couple vendors of supplies that will occasionally do a sale. So I just wait, like I have my list of what I need to buy from them. And when that thing goes on sale, that's when I buy it. So you'll want to be careful about that with your business so that you don't get people shopping for the sale with that.
Yeah. Okay.
And it also,
Sale.
like, it devalues your work a little bit too. Like if you've only got yourself a 20% profit and then you cut it down to 10, you're not making anything out of it.
Yeah, I'm not big on
Very true.
discount sales. I'll say for custom work, because it can, like, my stuff can be just all over the place. I find if I'm working with a client and I start resenting the project in any way, then I have underpriced myself. And I, like, are they a paying customer? Like, are they a difficult customer? Or is it, I just way underpriced myself for the amount of work that it is taking? And it doesn't happen so much anymore, but it used to be, there'd be like, wow, I really underpriced myself on this and I need to raise my prices. So
I think that gets to how often you need to evaluate your price structure. That kind of happened to me at one point in my business. I was running around like crazy and wasn't making any money. I'm like, okay, something's wrong here. So whenever you start feeling that frustration, or you start feeling like I've got enough work, I need to make more money, that's usually a good time to reevaluate. Or if you want to be more organized about it, you could take a look during your slow time of the year, which I guess for most people is probably winter. How did this last year go? What are the things you could change for your next year to make it go better too?
So at least annually reevaluate.
probably, yeah.
I think it's the one segment of business arts, people don't expect like discounts and promotions.
They do. They do, and they will try and haggle for them.
My cat's trying to get in the picture here.
I know people will try to haggle for them, but artwork is just one of those things that I rarely see sales. I mean, it's not something that typically there are sales. Yes, you can discount something that you've had sitting on your gallery wall for 2 years. You want to discount it. But again, it's how you present the discount.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things that you can do that won't devalue your work, but it's not, hey, we're having a clearance sale. A clearance sale means that we have stuff that did not sell. So it's all about the wording in terms of what you do. And lastly on this that I will say is, remember something. Your pricing, everything is about marketing. Everything that you do, everything. There is no
And we
ifs,
will
ands, and
have
buts.
we'll have a whole roundtable about marketing.
Everything is about marketing. Your pricing, your packaging, everything has a marketing element to it. And you need to remember that, because it's all about the perception of your customers.
Yeah.
What your customers.
Just to piggyback on that, I think offering, and I'm just going to use Sarah as an example, but say Sarah's doing a bunch of different things but offering different price points, because there might be a painting that Sarah is doing that I would really love, but I can't afford. But if she had something smaller that I could buy just to kind of, satisfy myself, but then work up to maybe later buying one of her other paintings that was maybe more expensive.
Yeah.
I think offering different price points for people.
Some artists don't do that because they don't want that in terms of branding. And I think that's perfectly legit strategy to be like, no, I only sell at high price point. But I do, because I prefer to have options. So it really depends. Say the sale thing, I would rather give stuff away for free. So I do where I'll take something that hasn't sold and I'll hide it somewhere and then photograph it and post on social media with a business card that this is hidden somewhere, go find it. Random people find it. I'd rather do a hide and seek thing, which is really, it's promotion, than have a discount sale. So yeah, if you find my art somewhere, you're the lucky winner.
Awesome.
That's interesting. That's good.
It's
That is a great idea.
It's so much fun.
Great. So panelists, any last nuggets of wisdom for our participants here, or participants, any more questions?
Like
How
I
many
mentioned
of
at
you
the
have
first,
websites?
Wait a minute.
Go on, Jennifer.
Go ahead, Sarah.
kind of like I mentioned the first, if people are having trouble figuring out cost, feel free to set up a meeting with me. My contact info, I think, is in the email, and we can meet one-on-one with people to help figure out pricing if you want a more in-depth dive on it. So you're welcome to come by.
Oh, Lydia, I do murals around Potsdam and have for quite some time. You're welcome to send me an email or Facebook message if you ever just want to chat.
Okay,
Or
thank
anyone,
you.
but just specifically that.
Great.
Thank you.
Ruby?
My final thoughts. How many of you have websites for your businesses?
Good.
Okay. Well, let me tell you something. This is my insight, my vision. Everyone, no matter what it is you're doing, you need to have some internet presence. You may start off with just your social media, but you need to have your own platform that you are responsible for, that tells the story about what it is you are doing. And again, it could be your own website or it can be a social media platform. When using a social media platform or Etsy or any of the others that are out there, remember one thing, that's that platform and you are subject to their rules. But again, it can be very lucrative for you. So use all of your resources, use all of the tools, automate whatever you can, but spend that time with a pencil and paper, figuring out what your costs are, because that will keep you happy. I mean, truly, if you have less of that frustration, because I felt that frustration and I know what it feels like to realize, oh my God, I did not charge enough for this job. And you just want it to be over with, and it seems to go on and on and on. So take care of your work up front so that your pain points will be less. You can make adjustments as you go and just enjoy it. I think that's the most important thing. Take it serious, but enjoy it.
Great wisdom.
Nice way to end off.
Well, it's 2:05. I want to thank everybody for coming today, and our panelists. Thank you very much for your time and your expertise. As I said, this will be available on our Facebook page as well as our YouTube channel. And if you have any questions regarding the Arts Council or grant opportunities through the Arts Council, be sure to talk to me. So,
Fantastic.
Thank you.
thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.